Boom. All right,
This
guys.
meeting is being recorded.
I thought that was someone else saying that. All right, guys. So it is officially Wednesday. Looking forward to today's session. We have some amazing speakers lined up, and Christina's one of them. I'll get into her intro in just a quick second, but before we officially get started, I want to have somebody bring us out on the field. And I'm going to call on Lisa, because Lisa, we missed you. All right. I'm glad that you're here. I'm glad that you're back. So Lisa, you know what the routine is. Bring us out on the field, out on the tunnel, getting ready for game day. So I'm going to turn it over to you, Lisa Chavez, to bring the team out on the field on this beautiful, glorious Wednesday morning. So without further ado, Lisa Chavez, do your thing.
Elias, that was so fucking predictable. I knew it. I actually thought about logging in at 8:40 just because of that.
Cameras on. I'm only going to pick on someone that their camera's on, and you were here, one of the first people, so I figured it would be fitting. So go ahead.
I've got something to say today, so it's all good. So I personally am pumped to be back on the team, but really I've been working on myself, and I've been trying to figure out what holds my ass back on the daily, because something holds me back. And I have like talked through it, and I have freaking figured out my shit. And it's all comes back to like growing up in a household. I had a genius older brother, and my parents, not that they're shitty people, they focused on my brother. They never talked about what I was going to go get and what I should go get. They supported me. They did it. They were loving, affectionate. I had good parents, but they never talked to me about freaking college. They never talked about like the best of grades. They just focused on my brother, who what's funny now is living paycheck to paycheck, borrowed my car this weekend and did not refill the gas tank. So now that I've kind of figured that out, I'm like, fuck, you need to figure out how to get through this even more, get through your day and fucking kill it. Because I know I have the potential to be a badass and do really well in this business. And I'm not trying to like be so busy that I don't have time for my family, because everyone knows my family's my priority. But I'm ready to like knock through the wall that I put up for myself. And I know everyone else kind of in the world and this team has shit, but figure your shit out, because I think everyone has the potential to fucking kill it.
Wow. Wow. You know, and listen, you guys, this was unsolicited. I didn't know. I just saw her face. I'm like, let's call on Lisa. She's, you know, just came back to the team, but like powerful. I didn't know that. I didn't know that you had a brother that was the genius, but now there's the genius brother that's borrowing your car and not bringing it back with gas in it. But tides have changed. So, you know, I'm here to support you. We're here to support you and help you break through that glass ceiling or whatever it is. So I appreciate you sharing. I appreciate the vulnerability. So you guys, let's get right into today's session. As we continue this quest of mastery of our dialogue, we constantly need to be feeding our minds. That's why the collective wisdom has become so important in our environment. And it's not that we're just learning, it's that we're applying, right? You could come to all the seminars, all the sessions, all the group presentations that you can possibly go to and absolutely do no application. And so you're literally the same person that you were when you walked in the door or when you went to an event. So the idea is that you take pieces out and that you find the way to really perfect your own dialogue, right? That's what this conversation is going to be about today. So I wrote a couple things down here. We have to master our dialogue until it becomes natural and that it literally sounds like you are a master of your industry. You have to sound astute, you have to sound relevant, and you have to sound like a true professional. You are a coach for your consumer, and that's how you have to look at it. The cool thing about Cristina, and the reason why I wanted to bring her on today, is because sometimes when we hear from lenders and sometimes when you talk to lenders, they have these high-level conversations about the bond market and what's driving the bond market and the treasury notes and all these things that are super important, and don't get me wrong. But in layman's terms, sometimes it's hard for us to explain or understand. And then we're going to try to repurpose that information and feed it back to our consumer about the treasury bond and about this and interest rates. And like, it doesn't come out that solid, right? Like, I want you guys to walk into any room, have any conversation. I don't care if it's a high-level engineer or if it's a super, super amiable, emotional teacher, I want you to be able to connect with them on a level that you could convey what is going on in our market at any given time, because there's true power in that. And the reason why Cristina stood out to me, obviously we have our relationships with Dom, we have our relationships with Patty Goodspeed and other lenders in our industry. The reason why Cristina stood out to me is that she seems like she's having fun doing what she does, right? And so there's this level of fun, there's this level of personality, there's the use of social media and creating really good stories and really good reels and videos, and she's super knowledgeable. So that's why I wanted to hear from Cristina today. So a couple key takeaways that I want you guys to expect to get from today is some key conversations and way to articulate the messaging very clear to a consumer, and then how to really use your social media to build and continue to build your brand. Some of you are doing this on a very, very high level already. Congrats to you and hats off to you. Some of you, it is still taking you a little while to just say, oh, I should probably create video. We're going to say it until we're blue in the face because we know it works. So want to introduce you to Cristina. Is it Nunes or Noon?
Either or, you can say Nunes, it's fine.
Nunes. Okay, cool. So Cristina Nunes, been in the game for quite some time, has had tremendous success in the industry. So we're really excited to hear from you today. We'll leave some time at the end to do some Q&A. So Cristina, without further ado, I wanted to kind of open the mic up to you, do some introductions, and then let's just get right into today's conversation.
Yeah, awesome. Thank you so much. I appreciate you guys having me on. This is great. And I think, you know, if for those of you who follow me, I do really try to have a lot of fun in what I do. When I first started putting myself out there on social media, you know, I went to my girlfriend, I went to my husband, and I was like, you know, I want to put myself out on social media. I don't know how to do it. You know, maybe I'm not as like, you know, key on, you know, like you say, with the bond and speaking in that way and getting people to understand really what I'm trying to relate. And one of my girlfriends told me, just be you. Like, you're funny, you're quirky, like just be you and the message will get out. And that's just what I started to do. And I started to post on social media and post reels. And then it just became natural. And I started to build my social media presence just naturally and authentically, and getting the audience that you want to continue to build your career. So thank you so much for the intro and the opportunity. I did want to talk about the market. The market has changed. You know, today is going to be a big rate day. So I will tell you guys that the Feds did put on an emergency meeting that's supposed to be happening. And, you know, from what I've spoken to my manager, management, getting insight, rates are expected to go up a little bit. We've been hearing about it. It's kind of happened slowly. Today, due to inflation, due to the market trying to just level out home prices. And yes, they've been going up at a crazy speed. And then they've kind of started to, you know, the trend instead of going this way is now kind of, okay, now we're going to start going this way. But like we all say, it's going in a healthy way. So with interest rates going up, is trying to balance out the market. And I think that's the easiest way to really explain it. And that's what really buyers want to know. They want to know what's going on in the market. Why is this doing, you know, X, Y, Z? So it is expected for rates to go up today. I probably, you know, when I checked rates this morning, when we say rates go up, sometimes it's more the cost of the rate. So I was quoting a client yesterday, believe it or not, 6.375 on a condo. She has almost an 800 credit score, and 6.375 was going to cost about $1,300. As of this morning, it's only going to cost about $500. So I'm like, okay, the cost of the rate's kind of going down, but I think that's us preparing for what's going to happen in the market. So it is expected to go up a little bit. And then we think kind of how the roller coaster goes with rates. They'll go up a little bit. And whenever you see someone say, oh, rates went up, it kind of will go up. It'll be like that for a couple of days. Then it kind of goes on this downward trend a little bit. So I always tell my clients, to be honest with you, they'll ask me, what do I do? Rates are going up. You know, the market's like this. I tell them, do you like this rate today? Do you like this rate today? Do you like the payment that I'm offering you? And I can tell them where the trend's going, but I like to sleep at night and I like to educate my clients and tell them this is what's happening with the market. I can't promise you what's going to happen tomorrow, So, you know, I had this client yesterday that I told her exactly what my feelings are, what I do this on the everyday. And I said, what does your gut tell you? And she says, you know what? She's like, I want to wait to see what happens tomorrow. She's like, I want to wait to see what happens tomorrow, and let's what happens, you know, in the next couple of days. And I said, okay, great. We'll pull rates tomorrow and we can keep following it and go from there. And that's the conversation to have with clients, and, you know, being, you know, compassionate, relatable. When I talk to my clients and what's going on in the market, I tell them my personal story. I was renting for years, and in this business, I was like, okay, I'm preaching this, I really want to buy. And so I bought last year, moved to Brentwood. I used to live in Newark, moved to Brentwood. I was so nervous because I was getting out of the Bay, to be honest. I grew up Newark, Fremont, Hayward area, and I just couldn't justify buying out there. So I moved out here, and when I tell those stories to clients and being relatable, they're like, oh, okay, she gets me. Okay, she went through the same experience. And then you can kind of feed off each other. And that's that relationship that when you build with your buyers, and that trust, and when you explain to them what's going on in the market, they're more likely to get that kind of feel good feeling in their tummy. They're like, okay, I like this person. I like this realtor. I like this lender. I want to work with them because I'm building that personal relationship, and I feel confident they can help me reach my ultimate goal of home ownership. Because ultimately, at the end of the day, these clients are trusting you in one of the biggest financial investments of their life. And sometimes when I sit back and think of that, I'm like, oh, okay, like this is a lot. Like really, they've been saving and saving. They're putting that trust in me as a lender. They're putting that trust in you as their realtor to help their family achieve that ultimate dream. So when I tell them, okay, like I'm going to do the best I can and give you the best advice in this current market, that's the best you can do to them, and they will receive that. So in going with that, with rates going up, I also talk to, you know, what I post on my social media and talking with my realtors, rates are up. We're in the sixes. It's crazy to say, I haven't seen rates in the sixes. I mean, even probably 5 years ago, you know, 6 years ago, we were in the 4s, 5s, but we're in the sixes now. We don't know how long we're going to stay in that. But that's where I'm looking at when it comes to terms. When I have a client that, yeah, maybe they have a 760 credit score and they're putting 5 to 10% down payment. But when we're pulling that pricing, the rates are in the sixes. They're like, ooh, I don't feel comfortable with this rate. I don't feel comfortable with this mortgage payment. And I say, okay, how about if we look at going FHA? Now, sometimes people, when I say FHA, they're like, oh, I'm not going to get my offer accepted. They're going to look at my offer as being weak. And I say, okay, let's strategize. Let's look at these terms. For an FHA, the government does offer these loans at a lower interest rate. We're looking at about 0.5% less of an interest rate. So many times when a listing agent would get an offer that's FHA, they're like, oh, it's not as strong of an offer. I beg to differ that, because if I'm giving you that approval, you're underwritten approved, you're approved just as much you're approved as conventional, putting 20% down. So then when I speak to my realtors and we're working with this first-time home buyer, I said, okay, how about this? I said, is the buyer comfortable with either shortening their contingencies, or maybe some buyers are even willing to remove that loan contingency on FHA? When they are removing their loan contingency on an FHA, in my opinion, and you know, contractually, you are competing just as if you're competing with a conventional offer. You are just as strong. And I always love to talk to listing agents when we're writing an offer in that way, and we're writing FHA. And when you are confident in what you're saying, and I call that listing agent and I say, I'm confident this is fully underwritten, approved, and I will perform. And I have done this multiple times. When you deliver that, they feel your confidence. And when you believe in yourself, they will also believe you. If you, and I know this is kind of what you were saying as well, if you don't believe in yourself, it's going to be perceived that way. And you have to just be confident. And so I've done that. We have won with many of my partners on this call, many FHA offers, because it was what's best for the client. It's what's best for getting a better interest rate, lower monthly payment. They didn't have to put as much of a down payment, and believe it or not, they can actually qualify for a lot more because ratios allow for that. So these are things that I try to deliver on my stories, deliver on my reels. And when you get maybe 30, 60 seconds to try to put this together for people to understand what you're saying, it's huge. And I love just having that conversation. And sometimes, people, realtors will ask me, well, okay, what does this mean? Like, walk me through it. And I love to do that, because then when I can explain to you guys these types of competitive terms, you can then go out there and also speak to listing agents. And I am happy to do it with you to fight for our clients and win these offers in this strategic, competitive way, because we have to go outside the box, because this market is an emotional roller coaster. And it's almost like tomorrow you don't know what's going to happen or what's going to come up or what's going to be new.
I love this. I absolutely love this. I just wanted to ask you some questions, like just to
Sure.
kind of interrupt for a quick sec. So right now, and I wrote a few questions here, like, are there key programs that you use or you advise your clients to use for down payment assistance that you have seen really work in certain, census tracts or geographic areas? That's the number one question. And the number two question, like, seeing as interest rates are now in the 6s, are you seeing buyers have a higher propensity to want to buy down rates? And if so, are you seeing that at a high level? What does that mean? What does that cost to them? And does that really pan out over the long haul? So on and so forth. So those are just two questions I had. And maybe you could address those.
Yeah. So with down payment assistance programs, I tell my realtors it's a conversation starter. We don't do a lot of them. Have I done a handful? Yes. It's a conversation starter that many times leads to me structuring them to go into a better loan program like FHA. Okay. With down payment assistance programs, in a nutshell, mortgage companies don't make a lot of money off of down payment assistance programs. So we have to charge an X amount of origination fee for us to make money. Another way of seeing it is no money is ever free. And in this world, no money is ever free. Interest rates on down payment assistance programs are higher than FHA. You're talking sometimes a down payment assistance program, interest rate will start at 6.25%. I can get an FHA buyer an interest rate of 4.875. So I'll talk to clients and coach them into, well, can you get 3.5% down payment? And they said, I can get 3.5% down payment, but I can't get the rest of my closing costs. So, okay, no problem. Let's do this. I'm going to help you work on your credit if it needs to be, and that's at no cost to the client. We do a credit rescore. I can actually increase your interest rate a smudge to get you a lender credit, plus what additional credit, maybe a lot of times I can get my boss to chip in, and we cover your closing costs. So if you can come in with just your 3.5% down payment in lender credits, and by maybe putting your interest rate up, maybe, instead of 4.875, let's go to 5.125. And we can cover your closing costs. I can close you in 12 to 14 days. You can have no loan contingencies, and you're going to compete a lot better against a down payment assistance program, and your monthly payment is still going to be lower. Another way of going about it is also, we're in a different market, seller credits. Now, 6 months ago, you probably would have looked at an offer with a seller credit, like, bottom of the barrel. No, why am I going to give you a seller credit? There's no reason for my seller to give you any money to help you with your closing costs. We have multiple offers. Well, now in this market, I firmly believe we can do that. And if you can get a seller credit, let's say 5,000 or 7,000, that is going to help you huge. And those seller credits go strictly all to your closing costs. So on an FHA loan, you can kind of, summarize, your closing costs are going to be about 3% of your sales price. So whatever your sales price is times 3%, that's going to be about your closing costs. So if you can get a majority of that covered by a little bit of a seller credit, then you can get a little bit of a lender credit. You can compete so much better and get a better interest rate than a down payment assistance. So that's why I say it's a conversation starter. And when I tell clients the interest rate difference on down payment assistance and FHA, and down payment assistance also has a lot of criteria that we have to meet. And many times, probably I want to say 7 out of 10 times, a client doesn't meet all the checklists and they don't qualify. So I talked to them about FHA and they're like, oh, I want to go that route. Like my monthly is going to be so much cheaper. I can refinance in a year if I wanted to. Down payment assistance programs, a lot of it, you cannot refinance that quick. So there's so many pros and cons to both. But that's why I say it's a conversation starter, because you can talk to the client, have them talk to me, and we start building that relationship and trust so that they get themselves in a position to be able to buy, whether it be, you know, in 3 or 6 months, they trust that you were the one that helped them get to this point. They will come back to you because they trust you and you helped them and you related to them. Another thing I saw is a listing agent had posted on her social media, and it was a brilliant idea, was sellers was willing to credit the buyer 1% of their loan amount to buy down points. And I saw that and I was like, this is amazing. I believe she's on Team Fast. Her Instagram is SF Bay Realtor, and she put that on her. And I was like, this is amazing, because 1 point to help a buyer buy down their closing costs that can be really like $8,000 to $10,000 depending on your loan amount. So that's really, I feel like, where the market's going. Another way of thinking of it too is if you're going to have, let's say you're going to ask a seller for a seller credit to help towards closing costs. And if your client was originally going to offer 500,000 purchase price. Okay, well, if you want to offer 500,000, but you want a $5,000 credit, then how about you offer 505 purchase price? Because by you boosting up that sales price, the seller is still going to net the same amount of money, but now you're getting that credit, and it's almost like you're financing that credit. Does that make sense? So these are, you know, the different ways of going about it in this market to help clients with the increase in interest rates and helping with closing costs that they may not necessarily need to go the down payment assistance route just because the rates are so much higher, and a lot of times clients don't qualify.
So are you seeing more people now? Like, is this a conversation that you're seeing more often, is the buy down of rates?
Yes, some clients do like to buy down rates, or they want at least the option. They want the option, well, you know, how much would it be to get, you know, closer to in the 5s than being in the 6s?
So elaborate on what that actually means? Because for some people, we do have some new agents, we have a lot of experienced agents on, but can you just, like, in layman's terms, explain what that means?
Yeah, so what a client can do is they'll contact me and say, well, what's the rates today? And I can say, okay, if you're putting 5% down, the rate's 6%, and I can offer to you that rate 6% at no cost. That's no cost for you. But then they'll be like, well, what if I, you know, is there any way to get 5.875? And I say, okay, let me see what the pricing is. And when I pull my pricing, I'll say, okay, well, for 5.875, the rate's going to cost about $3,000. So that's $3,000 can also convert in points, but we don't really say points, because if I'm going to talk to a client, they're like, what the heck's that? So I'd rather just put it in layman's terms. It's going to cost you, let's say, $3,000. But I'll tell them, okay, I know how much I can squeeze out of my boss. And I say, let me look at my calculations. How about this? How about if I can cover, let's say, $2,000 of that 5,000? So I cover 2,000. That means that for you to get 5.875, I cover 2,000, you cover 3,000. But can you negotiate in your offer to get a little bit of a seller credit to credit you towards that? Because a seller credit can go for non-recurring closing costs. So you guys may see in addendums, you know, $5,000 for non-recurring closing costs. Non-recurring closing costs are those one-time costs, like paying points to buy down. So that's where we can use a seller credit to buy down the rate, or even just if a client's short on funds, maybe they don't have enough money for closing costs, they're already getting a gift from a family member and they're still short, we can use a seller credit to help with that. And strategically, that's where you can actually boost your sales price a smudge, so that at the end of the day, the seller's still netting the same amount of money, but your buyer is profiting by getting that credit to help for buying down the rate, to help for paying for closing costs that they may be short on.
Wow, that's really, really, really powerful. Awesome. Anything else? Sorry, I thought that was really good.
No, I think that's. I know it's a lot of information, but I think that's really, where the market may start to go.
Cool. I love it. So you guys, I'm sure your heads are filled with thoughts right now and some dialogue. So I want to kind of hear from you guys. What are some questions that you have? And maybe you want some more color, you want her to elaborate on certain things, because I want to make sure that you guys have this down and that it is very, very solid when you're speaking to a consumer. So no matter who you are on the screen, who has some thoughts, some questions that we want to ask Cristina, and please do not be shy, because I want to make sure that we are masterful at this. So go ahead and raise your hand or take yourself off of mute. Anybody have questions? Anybody have questions, thoughts? All right, cool.
I want to say hello. Hi, everybody.
Hi, Cristina.
Hi. So I just want to say that I've used several lenders, and I know like I'm kind of focusing on Cristina. Sorry, I just got done working out. But she really has upped my game as far as education-wise on lending and really helping the clients along. And even with open houses, she's been truly instrumental. Being so nice to have a lender on hand. It gives buyers a secondary opinion. She's not overly aggressive, because a lot of people come in and they're saying, oh, I'm already pre-approved. And a lot of times it's like, to me, I see it as a car sales position. You go onto the lot and you're like, oh no, because you don't want to talk to that person quite yet. But she has the best delivery. I really appreciate it, because then it makes the buyer feel a little bit more comfortable explaining that, hey, I'm not here to take away from you, but I can give you a second opinion. And then if somebody doesn't have a pre-qualified buyer that walks in that open house, boom, there's your loan officer right there. So it's been truly, truly instrumental in my open houses. And not just that, in the really competitive market, she was coming through with terms that were like 14 days, just knocking it out of the park. And I just want to say, you know, if you haven't tried or even just talk to her one-on-one or for a secondary opinion, she's really helped me. So
I love it, Cristina.
Thank you, Cristina.
Clarence, I'll come to you in just a moment. So Cristina, I want to know, like, how often are you getting on consumer calls with agents? Like, are you on buyer consultations with agents? Are you there for one of the initial calls? Like how often are you partnering with agents in that stage of like still discovery, still early stages? Are you partnering with agents on that part of the process?
Yes, definitely. So I have been on buyer consultations, or my realtors have brought me in. Okay, I've had the buyer consultation. I'm going to pass them on to you. And then sometimes I'll set up a Zoom with them, or I love doing a phone call conversation. And some clients are a little like, oh, sorry, I'm busy. Oh, I'll call you, but go ahead and send me the email. I always will make that phone conversation, because I feel like it's super important, because just talking to them and putting a voice to that email is a way to, I almost want to tell you, to get their commitment, to get their trust in them. So I do those fire. And even if it's like 3 minutes, like sometimes clients, I'll talk to them, I'll explain to them the process of, you know, I'm going to have you complete a loan application. In that loan application, you're going to upload your documents securely. Once I have everything, and I always put this in my emails to them and I tell them over the phone, once I have your entire package, that is when I will be able to go over which loan options best fit your needs and what maybe your goal is. So I always do talk to them.
I love it. And you guys just think about this from a strategy. Like if you're running into a really challenging situation, you have to get creative. You have to find ways to have your loan or your offer stand out. Then this is a great strategy call, and then bring her in to talk with your consumer. So it's not just coming from you, that you guys are collectively forming a strategy that's going to help them get their offer accepted in a competitive market and win on terms. Because a lot of times it doesn't always have to be that you win on price. A lot of times you could win on terms, then that will separate you. So really good stuff, Cristina. Clarence, you had some thoughts and some contribution to the conversation?
Yes, Cristina, definitely thank you for the presentation. I did have a question regarding removing the FHA contingency, the loan contingency. I just wanted to verify, just to clarify that or verify, because I believe there are some contingencies like appraisal that you're not able to do. So if you could just elaborate on that, that'll help me out. Thanks.
Yeah. And you know, it's funny, I've had this come up. I know I've spoken to Cristina and Nancy on the team about this, that the FHA has that appraisal contingency, that if the property does not appraise, the buyer can get their earnest money deposit back. I have personally not dealt with that. I believe Cristina has on a transaction but I haven't personally dealt with that. I feel like that's kind of more of a, what would you, like a legal advice when it came on how that's handled. But I'm gonna knock on wood really quick. With appraisals lately, I tell people the comps have really been catching up. So I feel like all those bidding wars in the last 3 to 4 months, comps are now catching up, that my FHA appraisals properties have been appraising, whether they be at price or over asking price. So I have not dealt with an issue that a client, because I actually have one in contract right now. The buyer removed, it's FHA, just because strategically it was better interest rate. They're actually putting 15% down, but they went FHA because they can qualify for more, better interest rate, removed all their contingencies. So from a lender standpoint, it's the contract. Like, we're still going to perform. We're still going to make sure we have our collateral, which is the appraisal. So we have to have that property appraised at the sales price. But other than that, you know, everything else is more of a contract standpoint, not a lender standpoint.
So let's talk about, and I'll come to you in a second, Janique. Let's talk about removing a loan contingency. Is it safe to say that obviously we have to, you know, we never tell a client to remove it. Obviously, we just advise them on what the best terms could possibly be in order to win. But is it safe to say that a client should not remove a loan contingency unless their debt to income ratio is, let's say, below 40%? Is that like a safe like zone?
No, to be honest, all of my pre-approvals are fully underwritten. Now, if I have a realtor come to me and say, I'm writing an offer today and I really need an approval letter, I can do a pre-underwrite myself and issue similar to a pre-qual, which is, it's a pre-approval letter based off of myself as a professional reviewing income, assets, and credit. However, I then always send my files to an underwriter. So this is an underwriter putting their stamp of approval. So a lot of my approvals were in the 50s, because FHA can go up back-end ratio up to 56%. So sometimes we're in the 50s, but we're approved. Underwriter has approved that credit, approved assets, approved income. We're solid. A lot of times we're just waiting on a purchase contract and a prelim. So I advise clients, I said, if you are wishing to remove your contingency, then you want to remember and make sure that you're not quitting your job, you're not going to buy a new car, you're not charging up credit cards, nothing, everything is stable, everything is good. And as long as you're doing that, if you feel comfortable removing that loan contingency, that is on you. I'm advising as a lender, your loan is approved. I've reviewed the conditions, and the conditions are very basic, generic ones. We can perform. That's when I can say, if you want to remove your loan contingency, you know, be my guest. I feel comfortable doing so. And that's kind of that conversation that I have with clients. Because, you know, remember, you don't want, you know, if your job is a little on the line, and if something were to happen and you're in contract, you're kind of going to be SOL. So.
Okay. All right. Good stuff. Good stuff. Clarence, really good question. Janique had a question. She said, there's a couple of things in here. So Cam asked, does the FHA a mandatory clause still protect the buyer's EMD if we remove all contingencies?
Yeah, and I know that was similar to what the previous question was. I've heard it does. I just have not been in a situation where a buyer canceled due to the appraisal. But so that's why I would say it's more of a legal question, to be honest.
Okay. And then Janique said, is there a true down payment program available? Cristina said there is, but it's more so a conversation piece, but she doesn't use it regularly. If I'm
right.
quoting you correctly, it's more so leaning towards an FHA with
Yeah, just because there's so many requirements that a lot of times clients, maybe they don't have the credit score, or they make too much money, or they don't like that they can only get approved for, you know, a certain amount, because the debt to income ratios are so much more narrower than FHA. So when I say, okay, if you do down payment assistance, let's say you can qualify for 300,000, but if I put FHA, you can qualify for 400. They're going to go for the FHA.
Okay. All right. Good stuff. So, and feel free to ask any questions, you guys. I had a question. So how long have you been in the game, Cristina?
I started in real estate literally in 2002, and I was in real estate for about 7-8 years. I have twin daughters, and they were actually born prematurely. So I really had to, they were in the hospital for 3 months. They were born at 26 weeks. So I had a 2-pounder and a 1.9-pound baby. And just, it was crazy. My just world turned upside down, and I had to quit real estate. I had to stay at home. I had to take care of them, and because of their health needs. So I was home for 2.5 years, and then I ended up going back into working in REOs, doing foreclosure properties, working with a listing agent that had a bunch of REO accounts. And then I kind of started peeping into mortgage, and then I've been in mortgage since then. And that was, mortgage has been about another 7-8 years. And I started with assisting. So I was actually assisting in a team and just learning so much. And then I just finally got out of my own head, to be honest, and said, I want to do this for myself. I wanted what I was actually helping my loan officers build their realtor business and showing that value. And then I finally just said, I want to do this. Like, I enjoy it. And then I just kept putting myself out there to family and friends. And then it started being on social media, and then just growing from there to just, you know, trying to really, you know, be the best I can and being that independent contractor.
You know what? I love it. Most of it, I'm going to come to your question in a second. So my lady, I have 2 bonus children. One is 11 and one is 17. Our 11-year-old was born 1 pound. 1 pound. First couple years of her life in Stanford, 24 weeks. She spent the first, thank you, baby, 2.5 years in Stanford, and she was trached her whole life until she was 5, G2, countless amounts of surgery, but she's a little miracle baby now. So she is.
Oh yeah, I have 26 weekers. They were born at Alta Bay, so I get it.
Yeah, she's a sassy 11-year-old now, and so a little miracle baby. So I appreciate you sharing. Mohsen, you had a question, my brother. Go ahead and take yourself off of mute and ask your question. All right, so Mohsen hopped off. He's no longer there. Okay, so let's do this, you guys. Really good conversation, but I wanted to ask, was that you, Cristina, or somebody else?
Oh no, sorry, go ahead.
I wanted to ask a couple questions. So obviously you've been using social to build brand awareness, and like really, I think that your videos are fun, and they're you know, they're getting traction. Like, what are some of the top conversations that you had or reels that you have created that have given you the most traction?
Yeah, I think the biggest has been the misconception of how much money you need to buy a home. Okay. When I talk to clients, you know, when you go into the conversation of home ownership, everybody, it's because they had an uncle, they had a parent, they had a relative that has been in real estate. And they're like, I saved 20% down to buy my first home, and that's what you need. And when I tell people, I'm like, you really only need 3%, you know, or if you have 5%, great. You really don't need to save up 20% to buy a home. And when you start delivering and educating on that level, people are like, oh my gosh, I had no idea. Like, no one ever told me this. Another thing was, I had a client that telling people that if you already own a home and you're going to rent that home and you're going to go buy another home that's going to be your primary, you don't need 20% to do that. You can put 5% to buy another home that's going to be your primary. So it's really educating people on that, because, and I even learned that myself. A client asked me, and then I was talking to, like, we have a scenario desk in our team where we can ask these like different questions, and they're like, no, there's no guideline that says otherwise. And I'm like, brilliant, this is going to be a reel. And these are how I do my reels, to be honest. I don't super batch up a lot of my content because I want it to be authentic. And I kind of laugh because, like, sometimes you'll see me in the same shirt for like 3 reels that week, but it's because I did it that week. And I'm just thinking of things that maybe I had a conversation with a client and I kind of felt that light bulb and they were like, oh, I didn't know that. And then sometimes we're like, okay, yeah. I know, you see, I try to, all my pictures are funky. And they tell me that, and then I kind of have that light bulb in my head and I'm like, okay, you know what? This is going to be a real, because we do this every single day, right? We do this every day, that sometimes things become natural. And so that's the one.
But when we look at this, I mean, it's tons of engagement, guys. I'm just sharing this with you because most people wouldn't think like a lender is going to be humorous like this. And
I know, that's me. That's me in a nutshell. That's me when like on the everyday.
Right?
I love it.
But I think here's the thing, like I didn't know you and I haven't met you yet, but I got a true understanding of personality and like, okay, cool. That's someone I probably want to talk to and have a conversation with. And I would feel comfortable enough for her to be in her environment because this is really who we are, right? We're okay expressing who we are. And so I saw that and I was like, okay, let's have a Cristina. But we have another question. Mohsen, you had a question, you hopped off and hopped back on, my man. So what is your contribution? What's your question?
Hey, Chris, this is great stuff. Thank you, guys. I just had a question on how to leverage seller credit. And then when she talked about the broker credit, excuse me, does that mean that she works at a bank and she has the opportunity to ask for a credit, or is that a brokerage? Because I know I've never heard of really brokerages wanting to discount anything. So I'm just curious if she works for a brokerage or actual bank, and then how do you leverage seller's credit? What does that actually mean? Is it just a discount at the end and a reduction of the price?
Yeah, so what it is, I don't work for a bank. So we are a mortgage company, and how it works is we give a lender credit similar, it's comparable to being like a seller credit. We give a credit, and it's whether it be, $2,000, $3,000, we can give, every different type of loans have a little bit of different leverage. Now, we don't go out there and say, all right, every single loan I can give a lender credit on. No, but if I know a client needs some type of a credit, then I can go to my management and be like, hey, here's the scenario, here's the loan type, can we give a little bit of credit to help them out? And usually whether that be $500, whether that be $1,000, sometimes there's a little bit of money that all lenders have leverage of doing it. It just depends on their capacity and their margins, especially in this market right now. Our margins have gotten tighter because everyone's, a lot of people's business have gone down, but there usually is some type where whether the lender credit be a little bit that management can give, whether it be something that by increasing the interest rate, you are already getting a credit because you chose to go for a higher rate. The company is giving a credit automatically by going off that higher rate. So there's lots of different ways of maneuvering that.
So basically you guys are charging above par pricing, and then there's leverage because that margin's there?
We can go above par. So every lender has their par pricing, and par pricing means there's no cost for that rate. So let's say today was 6%, par pricing, no cost for the rate. Then I can say, okay, well, what if I can go above par, which is, okay, 6.125 to give you maybe $1,000 lender credit. Or I can buy down the rate at 5.875, and there may be a charge of that rate for $1,000. And I can say, okay, buyer, are you okay if I charge you $500 for this, and then I can get a credit from my boss to cover the other $500? Like, there's kind of different ways of doing it. Sometimes we can, sometimes we can't. It just depends on the loan type. But sometimes there's some room for that in negotiations.
Good stuff.
Awesome.
Good stuff. And hopefully that addresses your question, Mohsen. So I want to really reiterate this, you guys, and you're going to hear this as a common theme over the next couple months. And we shared this on Monday. The number one skill that agents need right now in this market, and I'll share this again with you guys because it's important. The agents that can describe and present market statistics and data effectively to consumers are the ones that are going to win the game, period. And I'm going to share this with everybody. We, becoming masterful at the dialogue, prospecting at a high level, check out the email I sent yesterday. Here's the thing. We are never going to become victim to the market. And here's why. If you're not masterful in your dialogue, if you're not prospecting at a high level, you become susceptible to, I'm not successful because it's the market. Because no matter what, and I had a question for you. What is the highest loan that you have ever funded in regards to interest rates, Cristina? Like, what was the highest interest rate that you ever wrote on a loan doc?
Oh, highest interest rate? I actually recently, it was FHA because the client wanted to cover all of their closing costs with the rate, and it was 5.625, I think it was, and they got a $12,000 lender credit.
Wow.
To cover. So that's why we were able to do that. No down payment assistance. They removed their loan contingency. We closed in 12 days. And we were able to compete with the conventional because of that.
And I love this. And here's the thing, you guys, people have bought homes at a 10% interest rate. They've bought homes at an 18% interest rate. Right now, we're still in a really, really strong market. We were just spoiled for many, many years to say, oh my God, I got a 3.75 interest rate. That is absolutely ludicrous. If you look back 10, 15 years ago, our consumers just got really, really spoiled. So we're still in a really, really healthy position. We're in a great position, but also being able to understand and believe that we are still in a very, very strong market. You guys, there's always going to be a winner. No matter what market we are in, there will always be a winner. That's why you see agents that have been in the game for 20 years and they never saw this. They saw steady, maybe a little slowdown, but their business continued to grow because they always controlled the narrative. When you learn to become masterful, it's like a marketing campaign. The marketing campaign was not the same 10 years ago. What people have done is they've changed their marketing based on consumer habits, based on consumer patterns. Your messaging changes because you're an expert at marketing, right? So you have to think about it. You're always going to win. You just have to make sure that your messaging wins. Did you have something?
And with that client, the 5.625, I explained to them, I'm like, we can refinance you. That's not your forever rate. It's just going to get you into your first home. We can refinance you out of that rate 6 months, 12 months, 18 months from now. This is a temporary payment to get you in your home because they strictly only had their 3.5% down payment. So I think explaining that to clients is, this isn't going to be your forever home, and this isn't going to be your forever rate, to be honest. Who do you know that kept their interest rate for a full 30 years? Maybe, your grandparents back in the days, but, we tell them, hey, we can refinance you, but this is going to get you in your home. And they're like, and when they open their mind to that and understand that, they're like, okay, I can deal with this,
Totally.
I think that's huge. And even on the social media standpoint, I could tell you guys, you're going to be your own worst enemy and you're going to be your biggest critic. So don't be scared to put yourself out there, whether it start on stories. Start putting yourself on stories and talking to the camera. And then from your stories, you build onto your reels and just start kind of doing reels and seeing what do people engage in and have fun with it, because that is how I feel like I've built my relationships, is having fun with it. And then people are like, they start cracking up, they start commenting. Then they start I get realtors or buyers DMing me. And then you're building those relationships just off being yourself.
That's right. I love this. Let's do this. Let's go around the room. We have 6 minutes. Let's get a couple key takeaways. Let's go to Bria really quick. Bria, key takeaways from today's amazing session. Let's hear from you. We've spoken so well. So Bria, key takeaways from today's session.
Yeah, for me as a rookie in the industry, hearing all of this and all of your perspectives, I'm trying to be a sponge and soak it all in. But in terms of, the social media aspect, just getting out of your own head and just push the content out there. We all have videos saved on our phones. Let's apply some of our knowledge to it and just educate our consumers.
Love it. I love it. Good stuff. And I see you out there making videos, doing your thing. Sarah Bethchart, hair's all curled and ready for the day. Sarah,
you noticed, yeah.
Key takeaways from today's session.
No, yeah, today was really great. I'm actually going to rewatch this entire thing because I just feel like the numbers aren't registering. If I hear it a second time, it's going to be better. And then that great reminder of never telling a client to remove a contingency. That was a great refreshment just to remind myself, never push anybody to do something they don't want to do. So yeah, no, just those two things.
Awesome, beautiful. Jennifer, I can send you the recording for everyone else. You guys know where it will be. Let's hear from two other people. Let's go to Nkosi Groover. Mr. Groover, key takeaways from today's session.
Yeah, most definitely. Get creative and really just educate your buyers when you're getting into contract, and be really flexible with terms. Terms really make or break deals, I feel like, and just really get in there and be as creative as possible.
Yeah, I love that. I love it. Clarence Chavis, excuse me. Let's hear from you, big dog. What were some of your key takeaways from today's session?
Key takeaways is definitely staying knowledgeable as in terms of what's going on in the industry, especially in regards to rates, especially in regards to ways to help your clients. And that transitions to the best ways to help your client as in terms of guiding them through the process of getting their offer accepted.
Good. I love this. I love this. Here's the thing, you guys. At the end of the day, knowledge is not power, and I think that that's the biggest misconception in the world. And I absolutely hate that statement. It's really not, right? It's only powerful if you actually harness it and use it. There's, like I said in the beginning of coaching, you can go to countless amounts of seminars and sessions and group coachings and leave this session and be like, cool. All right. Now I'm going to go back to doing whatever the heck I was doing before and not apply anything. I think every single time that you guys come in, you hear from a Cristina, you are on group coaching, you're in a session, whatever it is, like, what is the one thing? And I appreciate you, Sarah, saying I want to go back and watch it. Like, what is the one thing that I can take to maybe create a video, to put in my own dialogue, to help me make one step to get better at communicating what is going on in this industry, right? It's like you're taking all these things, so you are becoming this more well-rounded person. Think about how much you've grown in the last 5 years, the last 6 months, the last couple of weeks. So it's like inch by inch by inch, you're becoming masterful. You're understanding the dialogue and how to convey these messages to consumers, but you have to be cognizant of it and you have to want that. And so I appreciate this. And I want to encourage everybody to really go to the drawing board and make sure that they have their conversation pieces. Remember this, it's never, ever going to be the market, right? It will be, if it's the market, it means that it's your inability to convey the messaging about what is actually happening in the market. And I want to be as real as penitentiary steel about that. It's never the market. It is our inability to communicate effectively of what is actually happening in the marketplace. The people that are able to do that always win. So become masterful of that part of your conversation. And I promise you the market, you'll have some challenges, of course, but your dialogue will always win. So Cristina, any parting words before you head out and before we head out?
No, just thank you guys so much for the opportunity, and just kind of backing up what you said, what you put out there, even though it's a crazy market, put it out in a positive way, because you still want to keep encouraging people to buy. Market will always be changing, but as long as you're delivering a message that where there's a will, there's a way, they're going to keep positive and they're going to keep their eyes open to still moving forward.
I love it. And you know what, if I was you guys and I didn't have a strong relationship with the lender, or even if I did, I would probably try to get Cristina in early on your strategies with your clients and just have that dialogue, because I personally like this flow and your style. Obviously, you guys are open to use whoever you want, but I love this strategy conversation, and your clients need to know that you are the person that has the best strategy to get them over the finish line, and you have a team of people behind you that are going to help you, like great lenders like this. So Cristina, I thought this was powerful. We're going to continue to have these conversations. You guys, thank you for showing up in a big way. Cristina, thank you. We are beyond grateful for your time, for your effort, for your energy. You guys go out there, make something happen today. Appreciate you all. Joellen, I can't wait to hear all about, I don't know if you're on vacation or if you're at a mastermind or something like that, but it looks really, really pretty where you are. So I'm looking forward to hearing everybody's thoughts, takeaways in the coming weeks. So peace. Have a wonderful day. Judith, if you could stay on for a couple of minutes so you and I could connect, that would be great. Peace. You don't have to leave, but you cannot stay here. Bye now.
Thanks, Cristina.
Bye, guys. Thank you.